Afternoon, honor students. So here it is, our discussion lecture series over chapters 10 and 11. And this is really where things get heavy in this book. I mean, they've been heavy before, slowly but surely, but this is where things get real harsh to deal with. Now, I've said before that when I read this book, I don't like Holden Caulfield, and I don't. I don't like him for a lot of reasons, but this is kind of where my rationale comes from. I don't like how he deals with his problems. He has a lot of problems, and I don't like how he deals with them. And at the forefront, we see this in chapter 10 and 11 about how he's dealing with his problem. What problem is that? Well, this is the question from over the weekend. What is his deal? What is the core issue behind his depression and sadness? And a lot of you clued into this answer in your journals, but here's the truth of the matter is, so good job for those of you who got there. He's lonely. He is lonely. He's a lonely guy. And we see this in a few ways in the book. One way we've already seen. We saw this already with how he deals with his brother Ali dying. Angrily, aggression. He punches out the windows of his family's car. Sorry for the bell. He's angry all the time, and rightfully so. And that's kind of thing where if you are young and you go through a tragedy like that, where you have someone close to you, like a family member, like a brother, family, friend, a parent, grandparent die, and you're really close to them, it becomes traumatic, and you don't know how to properly deal with that. And people go in a bunch of different ways to respond to that. Rage, depression, sadness. Caulfield seems to be going into very much a repression mentality, like repressing his feelings. We know he's angry about Ali dying. He respects Ali a lot. He goes, Ali's a smarter man than him, more intelligent, witty, clever. We knew all of that. We get this. But Caulfield is clearly still bummed out and grappling with the death of his brother, and that's something that he's just not fully come to terms with yet. But he will never acknowledge that. He will never acknowledge that mentality. He always wants to kind of push it away, move on, talk about something else, which we've seen before. So we have that piece of the puzzle. We have the piece of the puzzle with his brother Ali. But then we have this other piece of the puzzle that we see in chapter 11. A memory he has when he was younger playing checkers with Jane on her porch. Remember, Jane is the girl who has a date with Stradlater. And Caulfield earlier in the book said that girl knows how to play checkers. Oh my gosh, she's so good at checkers. She uses moves for kings. Oh my gosh, it's a great strategy. Blah 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 blah. Checkers. It's a weird sticking point. But now we kind of see why it's a sticking point. They're playing checkers on the porch, and her stepfather, who Caulfield has been very formal that he does not like, comes out, and the conversation on paper is very straightforward. Stepdad comes out, asks Jane for a cigarette. Jane says nothing. He asks her again for a cigarette. She ignores him. He leaves. Jane begins to cry. Now, when Caulfield recalls this, he just does not know what to do. He goes into fix-it mode, like a lot of adolescent guys do. There's a problem. People are in pain. They want to fix it. As someone who, I'm guilty of this. My wife hates it. That like when there's something wrong in my household, I need to fix it. I don't like the unease of something is wrong or broken, and I want to fix things. I got that from my dad. My dad's the same way. And my wife, when we were dating, she pretty much calls me out on that all the time when we were dating. Like, stop that. You can't fix this. Like, if she had a bad day because her coworker didn't show up to work and my wife had to work double shifts, that would upset me. My wife's like, why is it upsetting you? It didn't hurt me at all. I'm angry a little about it, but it didn't hurt you. Well, why are you upset about this? Well, you can't fix it. There's no fixing. It happened. It's over. Move on. And Caulfield wants to fix something. He wants to fix the problem. So he tries to do it by making her feel better by kissing her, and it's this uncomfortably weird adolescent. He's kissing her everywhere on her face, her eyes, her nose, her cheeks, her head, trying to make her feel better. And that's kind of the extent of the story, is that moment. She's sad. Caulfield doesn't know why she's sad, but wants to make her feel better, tries to kiss her, and then it kind of moves on. But then you read between the lines here, and you go, why would Jane suddenly burst into tears around her stepdad? I mean, and the unfortunate thing about it is, it's probably because he's abusing Jane. I mean, that's just what it is. She's scared of him. She doesn't know want to talk to him. He's already engaging in the sexually assaulting action of walking around the house naked in front of her. She's a minor. That's really not great. I mean, that's horrible. It's a horrible thing to deal with. And this is really affecting Jane, as it should. She is, if you want to be in the most optimistic situation, this relationship between the stepdad and Jane is just simply a verbal abusive situation. But based on a psychological reading of Jane in this situation, how she responds to him by bursting into tears, and how she avoids eye contact, and she shirks away from him. These are all the intrinsic markers of somebody who is probably being sexually abused, and that's the real hardship here. It also, I mean, it definitely like why Caulfield's response of kissing her probably wasn't great either, but Caulfield knows. Well, it feeds into also why Caulfield doesn't like the guy. It's like, I don't know what's happening, but you are hurting my friend. You are hurting my friend, and I don't know how to stop it or fix it or how to change it. All Holden knows about the relationship, as physically mild as it was, is that when they held hands, Holden notes that he was truly happy. He was really, truly happy when they were holding hands. And that's a real innocence that we're not seeing in Caulfield a lot, where he's happy in just being with her. There's no need to be physical. It's not like Ackley, who's talking about all the places he got it on with girls in his hometown. It's not Stratlander, who's adding their notch to his bedpost. This is Holden like, I like this person. I just want to be with them. So we see in Caulfield someone who really just wants to be connected to people. That's all he wants. He wants to be connected. But we are seen now in two ways. When he was young, he is not getting that connection because anybody who gets close to him is ripped away by horrible extraneous circumstances like his brother Ali, or the other person is putting up a wall there in front of him. Now, if Jane, it's not even an if, it's pretty much wildly accepted that Jane is being abused in some regard by her stepfather. People who are abused put up walls. They put up barriers between themselves and others to avoid being hurt again. So Jane has these walls up. Maybe Caulfield is clued into this, maybe he doesn't. But basically he is seeing how everyone, the people who have cared about him most, he is not able to get close to. Now, Ali and Jane, these are not his fault. So in turn, when Holden cannot connect with people, it is always their fault. Now we get to chapter 10. The ladies in the lavender room. He goes to this bar, this nightclub, to basically hang out and do something. I don't know. And he spends the first half of his evening just basically criticizing everyone else in the room except himself. Like, everyone else, like, oh my gosh, these people suck. They're terrible. They're awful. And the three girls, or the women, the women who he begins to flirt with, which again, weird, he basically feels like they're backwater hicks from Washington, some obscure out-of-towner who's in here to just celebrity watch. Like, oh look, here comes Gary Cooper. And they go, where? And he goes, whatever, he just left. Like, he is really just making them like, see, you don't really care about being here. But he still asks them to dance. He still asks them to like hang out, and he does. He feels that he is attracting an older woman because he is a sophisticated son of a gun. But when you're looking at this as from us, we're looking at this and they are not dancing with him because they want to like go back to his room and like make out or whatever his brain thinks is going to happen. They're doing it out of pity. They are disinterested in the conversations he's trying to have with them. They're kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, we'll dance with you, sure. But like, it's almost like just this awkward middle school dance kind of thing, where it's like, ladies might have this dance and they're like, sure, whatever, and they begin dancing with him, but their brains are elsewhere because it's like they are in their mid to late 20s, early 30s, and this dude is 16. They don't know how he got in here. I think it's funny, but it's just this whole thing of like, yeah, just counting the minutes till the song's over. And then when the dances are over and they go back to their table, he goes with them because he does not know how to read the room. He's 16. He doesn't get the social cues. They're like, they didn't invite him over. It's super awkward, and it's this really uncomfortable conversation. But you have to look at it as it's not uncomfortable. Well, it is uncomfortable for them, but it's uncomfortable because he is insistent of, I've made a connection here. As minuscule as it is, maybe they're backwater hicks, maybe they're outsiders, but who cares? Whatever. And he makes this moment to go and talk to them and hang out for just a couple of minutes. All of this feeds into this idea that Caulfield is a man who is desperately in need of some interaction. And again, we talked last time about how there's a disconnect between what is expected and what he wants. And what he wants is interaction. He wants connection, but he wants authentic connection. He wants real connection. He wants to be with people who want to be with him. And I understand how ironic this is that I'm having this conversation to an empty room. I mean, really. I am having this conversation with no one. A conversation of being connected. And I'm having it with nobody. No one's here. The halls are dark right now. I've seen one person on campus today. The irony is not lost on me. It is not lost on me, the irony that I'm having a talk about being connected with people in a time where literally our state government, national government is saying, don't connect with people. Because connection is important. These I miss videos that we're sending out. It's even like seeing other people's faces is helpful. It's comforting. It's I'm not even calling anybody else on that, but like my juniors had a discussion meeting yesterday for a test that I assigned for them, and I had 3 people join the chat at 10:30 and basically tell me we're just hanging out, and they hung out for 2 hours. Just talking to each other, texting each other in the chat, talking to people who came in. They just hung out. And some of you right now hear that and go, nerds, freaking get a life. But we are literally living in a time where we are told that we are not allowed to connect with people we want to be connecting with. And it's hard. It's hard to not have human interaction as we want to have it. And this is where, again, I don't like Caulfield's response to it. Because Caulfield's response is everyone else is the problem. You're all the problem. You all are terrible. You don't want to connect with me because that's your fault. Which is, that's how he wants to internalize it. Sure. I don't like that. I don't like that aspect of him. But the bigger thing is, he just wants what we all want. We all want human interaction. Nobody wants to speak to a class of empty desks and empty tables. I know some of you are singing a song right now. I don't like that. That's a joke that I would have made with you here. I would have made that joke with people who would have, I would have said empty chairs, empty tables, and then you would have started humming Les Mis to each other, and I would have said, "Nah, stop it," and then interaction and connection is not a bad thing. We all want connection. We all want to be connected to people. And when we see Caulfield desperately finding out any possible way to get that and not getting it, it's sympathetic. It really is. I really do sympathize with Caulfield here. Which is where our poem comes in. You're going to be reading not an excerpt, the whole poem by Carl Sandburg called At the Window, which is this exploration of the idea of what it means to not have connection. You have a journal that's going to compare this to chapters 10 and 11 and other things we've been talking about already about this idea of connection. Read the poem, respond to it. Pretty straightforward. And then also for next class, you'll kind of see the homework posted also here below. Make sure to read chapters 12 and 13. And you'll see me a little later. I'll post something later on this week. I'm sad now. Oh well. Bye, guys.